Welcome, everybody. This is the inaugural episode. I don't know what I'm doing right now, but I'm doing something cool right now. This is the inaugural episode of The Lookout. And The Lookout is a podcast on RNC Radio Network. And if you're not following us by now, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Crazy.
But if this is your first foray into this, I'm super glad. I'm super humbled. Thank you so much. But this is The Lookout. And this is the podcast just specifically on Dragon Ball Z, or not even Dragon Ball Z, the entire Dragon Ball series, because I feel like maybe in time we'll talk about Dragon Ball. We go through our favorite sagas, we go through our favorite characters, we'll do dissections of those. But we're really doing this podcast, and it's a fun one. And my first guest at the time, it had to be the first guest, because this is like the guy that I talk about Dragon Ball Super with the most out of anybody.
Yeah.
It's Jeff. I mean, Jeff from RSPN Podcast, also on the RNC Radio Network. And if you're not checking those guys out, like, what is wrong with you as well?
Yeah, man. I'm been a huge fan of the Dragon Ball series. Basically, it feels like my whole life now. You know?
So how long have you been? How long do you think you've been watching this? Because I remember I actually remember the first time, and we're about the same age. Like, we're off by like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah. Well, you know, for me, it started back. I had a homeboy, this white homie, like one of my first white friends ever, bro. He was into like rock and like, you know, anime and like Gundam Wing and stuff like that, like different stuff like that. He started putting me on like the mangas and stuff, and just like watching the show and just really like diving into it. Because as a kid, you know, some of that stuff you're like, oh, this isn't for me, or like, you're just young, and so you just be like, man, just where's so and so? While all this, we had this other stuff like Power Rangers and all that crap, but like this other stuff was still there, and it's like Sailor Moon and you know, Gundam and Dragon Ball.
The whole Toonami block. I mean,
they set it up, man.
They set it up. And if you have not, like, if you were ever interested in like the history of Toonami and like how it came, there's like a good like self documentary. Like, someone created their own like documentary.
Oh, man.
It's not official, but it's still pretty good on like the history of Toonami and how it became like huge in the United States.
Yeah, like if you weren't a part of that era, like I feel sorry for you.
Pretty much.
It's amazing.
I know I think I remember my first foray into Dragon Ball. I think I was in third grade. I want to say I was either in second or third grade. And this is a funny story. We're all running around the playground and stuff.
Yeah.
And my friends are running, like, I don't know if you've seen the first episodes of Dragon Ball Z, where Goku's like, when he runs, like his arms are out.
Yeah. He runs
so everyone is running like that. And I'm just like, why is everyone running like that? So I start doing it too, because obviously I'm like in third grade. I want to be cool.
Yeah, you're trying to be cool. Yeah,
I'm trying to be cool. So I'm running like that. But then I'm like, yo, why are we running like that? And they was like, yo, you haven't seen Dragon Ball Z? I'm like, no, I don't know what Dragon Ball Z is.
Stupid, man. It was like, oh, so you're just running. You thought you was a poser.
I probably was. You know why? Because around that time was probably like, I didn't grow up initially. I wasn't birthed with cable. So I eventually got cable, like second grade, third grade. So I got that cable, and
boom.
I didn't know. I didn't know there was when I first got cable. I didn't know there's an entire network dedicated to cartoons. I love cartoons,
real cartoons.
Yeah, like the only cartoons I would see was on Saturday or after school or all this other stuff. But I never really saw Dragon Ball Z, and I was just like, yo, I gotta see this. And from the moment there, I was hooked. Like, you got people shooting shit, killing.
Man, I'm talking like I'm a 13, 14-year-old kid outside, like truly curious if I can like
fly,
elevate my
bro.
Power, nigga.
Yo.
Yeah, like I'm like, yo, can I actually elevate my power right now?
Yo, dog. Yo, don't even, everyone's listening right now. If you're listening to this podcast, I assume you're a Dragon Ball fan, but if you listen to this podcast, there's at least, I want to say, a handful of times where you just like, yo, I could love it. Like, if, like, I could really do this. Like, I don't know.
Bro. Look, I'm a 28-year-old man. And I'll tell you, man, like, you know, over 10, 15 years ago, bro, like, I was really about that. Like, there was a point where I was like, I can't wait to just start working out so I can just like get to this point.
Boost
of course, I got older.
Yeah,
bro. Like, I used to go on like early. This is facts. I used to go on like early Dragon Ball forums and whatnot, and like we would just be in there like talking about power levels, like just power levels. Like
Yo,
I'm
all
like,
right.
yo, what are we doing?
Let
Like,
me see. I think we're both on the same wavelength. Like you and did you before you saw everything, you did your research. Like you'd go on the internet. I
yeah,
don't know. I would go on the internet. Like if I didn't have internet at home, I got internet at home all later after the fact. But I went to the library and I would look and read up about sagas and shit. And I would print out pictures and draw them.
man, I was downloading shit off LimeWire, bro.
Oh my
Like,
god.
I've killed many computers due to LimeWire, but like, dog, that's how I was getting a lot of my stuff. Like there was a time where I had found this LimeWire stuff. I was getting these episodes, but there was no there was no visual picture. It was just like an audio of the
Right.
episode,
Oh
and I
no.
was like,
On playing
yeah,
it on Real Player or some shit like
right. I'm
that.
like, what am I doing? But it was so interesting to me. Like it was just something about Dragon Ball Z that was just so interesting to me.
Yeah, it is 100% like it's magical. It's one of the it's still like the main anime that I watch. I don't really foray
No,
into
I hear you.
others.
I got
And
more for you. I'm gonna give you some more, but
we
like
got we got it. You know what?
Super is really good.
Super
Super is really good.
Super is really good. And I wanted
No
to
flex. Like it's real good.
it's real like if you're a fan of Z, like I think you'll love Super. Like to me it's
Absolutely.
kind of on the same level to be honest with you.
Yeah, dude, it is. It is. I've had this conversation with other homeboys and like, dog, like it is literally. I mean, it's up there. Like you can't just push it to the side and say, oh, it's just another GT. It's
Right.
definitely not GT. You know what I'm saying? We
Cuz
know that.
they do the series justice, man. They
Man, they do it
really
so well.
they do it. The callbacks,
The
everyone
plot
kind
holes,
the plot
the
holes.
character development. It's just all of it is just so good, man.
So I'm doing this. Well, I've had this idea to do this podcast for a very long time and just do this series of podcasts
Right.
because I have another podcast called the Two Bells Podcast. You can also listen to that on SoundCloud. And we had an episode related around, Dragon Ball Z. And I think a lot of people gravitated towards that. A lot of people dig that. But I've always wanted to have this like in-depth discussion.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
just all Dragon Ball.
all Dragon Ball with people who understand it, people who appreciate it, people who love it. We have these discussions, these arguments, all these other things. But this series of podcasts that I'm about to do, and it's going to be all released right around the same time. I want to just like paint the picture and really dissect this. And this entire series is going to be about the Universal Survival Saga or the Tournament of Power, which is pretty much how I'm going to refer to it from here on out because it's Universe Survival. Yeah, but it's the Tournament of Power, man.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. This is the
amazing. Some fan made shit. Like if it was like if you go through this and you watch this past saga or the current saga that's on right now, it is like a fan wrote it, and and it's like everything that you would want. Like you're just like, oh my god, this is great. Like,
and what's crazy is like they're literally introducing like 70 new characters all at once, and some of them have development beforehand, which is
risky.
Yeah, it's just risky, and
risky.
And some of them don't, and some of them we haven't seen in a long time in any prominent role, and now they have the universe essentially in their hand, and it's sort of the culmination. It's really kind of the culmination of the entire series this far, from like Goku meeting Beerus to
it's awesome.
Beerus now having to entrust his own fate in Goku. So it's kind of like it comes full circle in that sort of way, and it's just really fun all the way through. And if you're not, if you have not been watching, I don't know what to tell you at this point.
It's a must. It's a must. Check it. Just check it out. Check it out subbed. If you need to check it out, I mean, the dub is behind.
The dub is way behind.
Like, way behind. I don't know. They probably won't be where we are until like summer.
2019. I'm estimating like 2019.
It could go the whole. When's the movie coming out? They said late this year.
Late this year. So
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. You're probably right.
So it's essentially in the US. We're at the Future Trunks. Goku Black Saga.
Goku Black Saga.
And
Blacku. The man.
And over in Japan, we're still in this sort of shifty place because even when this podcast comes out, we won't exactly know, or maybe we will, who knows, but at this point we don't know the fate of Dragon Ball Super. Is it ending?
Man, I've seen Twitter went crazy when they
Oh,
figured out what the
because
last episode was called, and that's all great. But listen, some of the plot holes that they left and the character development things that they left out, and just the specific promises that were made from specific
oh
characters.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's over. But this is bro. Like, if you don't watch anime or you're not familiar with it, this shit happens all the time.
And the shit still makes so much money.
Yeah, and it makes so much money. It just
It's
is what it is.
it's like it boggles my mind that it was off air for like almost 20 years because it's and even in the interim like it's
Yeah,
still been making so much money.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
Dragon Ball is just a
It's a
cultural,
culture. Yeah.
it's like a culture, it's a cultural phenomenon. It's something that's never going to die because if it
Hmm.
was it would have been gone already. I mean,
Absolutely.
you have anime, like look at Monster Rancher for a second, and I don't want to,
Mm.
I
No,
never
yeah, you're
watched
fine.
Monster
You're fine.
Rancher, but it's something that's just like it's not here anymore. A lot of people don't talk about it. Even like,
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh! In a sense, like it's still on, but not a lot of
Right.
people. But Dragon Ball, like the Dragon Ball series, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, it's like something that like it's something where essentially I've seen kids like 5 years old, my niece's friends, like 6, 7 years old,
Yeah.
know Goku, and they're like, "Oh, you're watching Dragon Ball Super." I have no
Right.
idea if they watch Z or anything, but
Right. You don't know because they're so young.
they're still like invested in the character. Like, "Oh, that's Goku. Oh man, do you watch Super?" I remember 7-year-old asked me, "Do I watch Super?" And I was like, "Yes, yes, I do." And it's
Yeah.
just like the disparity of ages. Like this shit is just this
It's
shit
it's
is
it's it's truly wild. Like, just and that's everything. We're gonna have a conversation about Pokemon one day as well. But it's
oh yeah,
similar. Just a similar thing. It's just like that energy is like it's so raw. You just have a specific development for each character. Like, you'll actually even feel for some of these characters. Like, wow, this is one of my favorite, personalities, character development in general. Like, I just want to follow this character. I don't want this character to end. I just want to figure out a way to bring this person back. Like, and that's
right.
you just end up feeling that way about a lot of these different characters.
Who's
And not to mention, as far as animes are concerned, just so everybody knows, like, there's some animes that aren't huge and or not successful in the US, but best believe they are just booming
right?
overseas. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're doing just fine. Sometimes it takes a while.
Who's just another side question before we get to the main event? Who was
Yeah.
in terms of Dragon Ball? Who was your favorite character growing up? Like as a kid, who was your guy
Um,
or
I've
gal?
always been a villain person. So for me, like, I'm more interested in the protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
I loved Cell. I loved Perfect Cell. I loved the personality. I loved that he was witty, that he was confident, egotistical, all that. As a matter of fact, I thought he would have did well currently in Super and Frieza's spot. I
Mm-hmm.
understand the Frieza choice, I really do, but I love Perfect Cell. But as far as like on the opposite side, I always thought Android 17 was the coolest and baddest guy out there, man. I
Man,
love 17. I love all the Saiyans and all that. That stuff is
right.
always hot. I mean, Goku going Super Saiyan 3, Gotenks Super Saiyan 3, like the fusions, blah blah blah. But I don't know, man. Like, it's just something about the lower characters that have stories that haven't been told. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, I was always, this is weird. When I first started, I was a Krillin fan because I was OD. Like, I didn't understand, like, Krillin was just like,
You're right. You're right.
I was just like, yo, this guy is cool. He shoots discs, all this
Yeah.
other shit. Like, the Destructo disc is very cool. I'm not even
It's
gonna,
cool. It's a
and it's,
cool ass move,
and it's evolved, and
and
I
it can
appreciate,
damage anybody.
right. It can damage anybody, but I think I probably, and then I shifted towards Gohan because then I was like, I was growing up as a teen. He was
Yeah.
Teen Gohan. I was there. We were
Yeah.
there. And then
Facts.
I don't even know now, but it's like, oh man, it's just you know what? Let's get to the
Yeah.
sort of why we're here, and we're here to talk about the Tournament of Power. And when you have to talk about the origins of the Tournament of Power, you go back like a number of, I guess, sagas because we see in Dragon Ball Super the introduction of Beerus, but it really kind of begins with this sort of inter-universal tournament between Universe 6 and Universe 7.
Yep.
It's the first sort of introduction that, oh, there are other universes in terms of
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Super just being like, yo, this is just bigger than Earth. It's bigger than our universe. It's bigger than it goes further than Namek. It goes further than wherever you think it is. Like there's entirely different universes. And we see, Champa, Beerus' brother. He's trying to attain the Super Dragon Balls. They decide to have a tournament for it. And we get this 5-on-5 where we have Universe 7 defeats Universe 6. Boom. And then we have the introduction,
which was underrated.
I think so. It was underrated.
Yeah.
I think I may be underrated because of Goku's role wasn't maybe as big.
Yeah.
Because Vegeta really carried that entire team. And it was one of the moments where
they knew what they were doing with that because they had to. I mean, I think you can't, obviously we see what's happening with Goku now present, but I just think you didn't want to give us an overload of him.
Right, and I think they've done a good job in Super giving Vegeta his moments, where in Z, a lot of his moments were there, and then they were taken away pretty quickly.
Right.
And then, I mean, they're still taken away in Super, don't get me wrong, because I guess the bottom dollar is Goku is, but you get some sort of fulfillment for cheering for Vegeta that you may have not gotten before.
Absolutely. I love how Vegeta, they show him as a fucking family man. Like he cares about the fact that, like his daughter, Trunks, and then just Bulma in general. Like he shows that just a little bit of pieces of like compassion is dope to me because it's just something we never really got in Z besides what Majin Vegeta exploding himself.
Right.
The hug from Trunks, one of the awesome moments in that saga.
Beautiful moment.
Yeah, incredible. But like I just like the more like showing his human side, even him towards the other Saiyans from the other universe that we'll talk about.
Right. Let's we have that. We have then we have Zeno shows up. Mm-hmm. And he is apparently like, they've done this thing in the Dragon Ball series where there's like constantly like, there's like a Kami, and then you get Kami, and then there's a Kai, and then when you get there a Kai, there's a Grand Kai, and then, you think that was the best, and then there's Supreme Kai, and then you think Supreme Kai is there, and then you have, we have a God of Destruction. It's kind of going
and
up.
angels that we don't really know much about.
And this sort of hierarchy is just kind of, it continues to grow. So I don't know if I want to hold my breath to say like Zeno is the ultimate and almighty.
It appears
it looks like
as
he
of
is.
now. Yeah, he is. I mean, as of now, I don't really see anything bigger than him.
Right. And I love Zeno, by the way. Like,
it's a great character.
It's a great character. It's a great, funny way. And Dragon Ball Super does this thing where it still incorporates a lot of comedy really, really well and really, really naturally.
Yeah.
Whereas they may not have done it in Z too much. You might have gotten a filler episode. Goku and Piccolo learn to drive, blah, blah, blah. But
you got to deal with those.
Yeah. You don't get the like the natural funniness, and that's something that Super sort of brings to the table. But Zeno says like, I would love to continue to see more of this. He doesn't say that specifically. He says this in a lot more kid fashion, but he says like, I would love to see more of this. I want to sort of have, I guess a tournament.
A tournament, yeah.
A tournament in the future. Fast forward a couple sagas, fast forward to a purple Vegeta, fast forward through Goku Black, fast forward through...
Oh man, Goku Black. We could do a whole episode on him if we like one.
Fast forward through Hit somehow showing up in Universe 7 and killing Goku. We get to Lord Zeno and Goku. Goku's thirst for this tournament. He wants this thing to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
He wants to gauge his power level against other people. And Lord Zeno's like, you know what? I want to have this happen. Man, I'm gonna ruin sort of the structure of this all because it's kind of escaping me now.
Well, I mean,
But I forgot what happened first. Whether it was Lord Zeno deciding he was going to delete universes first, or did that sort of another sort of 3-on-3 tournament actually between Universe 7 and Universe, I want to believe 9.
I think there was I want to say there was a thread of some kind of, like what you're saying, like the ladder, like it's just, I think it was from somebody saying that there was going to be something and then he just made it official.
Right. So there was always, and the way this goes is, Lord Zeno, apparently he was out there, he's like casually destroying planets and stuff. He's playing with his future self, which is back, and we'll have a whole discussion on that probably when we talk about time travel in Dragon Ball Z in the future or something. But there's two Xenos at this point, and they're destroying planets and stuff, and they say like, yo, we have too many universes. Like,
just off rip, he's like, all right, there's too much going on. We just have to take some of the weeks out.
Right. We have too many universes. Not a lot of them are strong. Not a lot of them have a base sort of, I guess, an average power level. I forgot. I think it was called not mortality rate, but it was something where they gauged it upon.
Yeah, they had a whole ladder for it.
So it's like, I don't know if it's a scale from 1 to 10, but it's pretty much like, these are the, about 10 universes or so that are not over that level. They generally do not have a strong amount of people. They're here. I don't know if they're not like they're wasting everybody's time, but essentially it's like there's too many universes to count. It was 8 universes. There's 8 universes. We don't need, as many other universes.
Yeah.
He's already destroyed 4 other universes, I believe.
With ease, by the way.
Yeah, it's just casually mentioned off camera. It doesn't say what happened, his decision, why. It's just like, there used to be 16. Now there's only about, like, I think there was 13.
And they're like, what happened to it?
And it was just like, he destroyed them. Like, there was just way too many. So this is brought up, and there's two, I guess, perspectives from it. There's a perspective of God of Destruction, where they hate Goku for bringing this up, because they're like, now you've ensured us that our universes are going to be destroyed. Like, right. We're going to lose universes. And then on the other side of the coin, people are like, well, Goku actually kind of saved everyone, because he's giving everyone a chance to fight for their own universe survival. And he's giving everyone a chance to say, like, hey, we're a strong universe. We need to be here. And these other universes aren't. Because at this point, he was going to destroy all the universes.
He was going to destroy them all and start over however he liked. So, yeah, I mean, they feared. I think the Goku thing was a bit of fear, too.
Yeah.
Because his relationship with Beerus.
So we get to, there's this exhibition between 3-on-3, and Goku selects Gohan and Majin Buu to be on his team, and we get them versus Universe 9, which has, I believe, what are the brothers' name? It's the Danger Trio.
The Wolf guys.
The Wolf guys, the Danger
Basil,
Trio.
Lavender, and my man
Bergamo.
Yeah. It's something Bergamo. Of that nature. Yeah.
It's spices, baby.
Yeah, you know how they do.
So it's a 3-on-3 tournament, and we're zooming through this because this is still part of. I think it's still part of the previous saga.
Yeah, this was a good fight.
It was a good fight. I mean, we see Majin Buu, who was absent from the last tournament because he couldn't pass any standardized writing or reading test or whatever the fact. There was Gohan, who hasn't fought in a long time. At this point, the only sort of burden he had in Super was being turned into Swiss cheese by Frieza, who lit him up, like pretty much lit him up completely.
Just embarrassed him.
And we have Goku, and the Universe 7 people pretty handedly beat Universe 9. I mean, you get to see a lot of cool maneuvers, a lot of cool effects. And I think the Danger Trio. I mean, they're a cool trio, mind you. They're still on the.
That's what I was gonna say. I think the fact of showing them first told me a lot about how they were gonna go about every other universe. You know what I'm saying? Like, because those characters were in depth, like their moves, how they fought, their personalities, and it was quick. They the way it lasted, but it was real.
It was real, and Universe 7 came out the victor, and then that was the moment they decided, hey, in the next 40 hours or so, you need to select 10 fighters, and we're going to have this battle for universe survival. And
it was really right after that.
It was literally right after. They decided the rules, they decided everything. We get like a 10-episode sort of journey of them building the ring, and it's just like this very like strong, supportive, like, I don't know, this beautiful just sort
ridiculous
of architecture.
It is fire.
I hope they make a toy of that, or it's just as a
Yeah, I'd
model
buy
or
it.
something.
I'd buy it.
Um, and we get the universe of, you know, the tournament of power at least, and that's sort of how it begins. And you know, there's about 8 universes that we have to go through this, but for this episode, I want to go through Universe 7 and its fighters and how we pick these fighters.
Yeah.
Because Goku has 40 hours to select 9 fighters, and I mean, granted, he has a group of strong friends. He's been through the universes. He knows who's strong, who isn't. And on the fact of it is, most of them are on Earth. But he has to select 9 others, you know, fighters, and I think we should go through that now. And just the sort of the lineup of Universe 7, and probably the first one I want to get to is because he recruits them first. I want to get through to Android 18.
Yeah.
Android 18, someone who, you know, Dragon Ball Z was introduced during the Android Saga, was, you know, an offspring of Dr. Gero's invention, but eventually devoured by Cell and then sort of spit out all after fact in a very like gross moment.
That was awesome. She's an original WCW too. For real.
Oh my god. And we get she's wished to have the bomb out of her and sort of live a normal life, and she gets married to Krillin. You know, she almost wins the world tournament against Mr. Satan and throws it, but we haven't really seen much of her in Super. We haven't seen much of what she has to offer.
She's being a mom.
She's just being a mom. She's a very domestic thing. I think with both the androids, I think what they want to do is live a human life for so long that I don't think, while they could fight, I don't think fighting interests them as much as living this sort of human life. And Android 18 is definitely living her life to the best of her abilities. But she's chosen because she is just very strong. Like she's still set to be stronger than Krillin. She's an android, so her energy never really runs out.
She's not in combat anymore.
And she's been ruthless. I mean, look at the moments that we've seen her in. That fight against Vegeta.
Yeah, she's always been a critical fighter. The breaking Vegeta's arm, and that scene that's a classic. That's a classic scene to me. Like
that's a classic humbling.
Really, like Vegeta gets manhandled like with pure ease, like.
And you've seen that against Frieza, but against Android 18, it was like really the humbling because Vegeta had reached his new level. He had reached Super Saiyan level, and he was at this point calling himself Super Vegeta. My man had a new theme song.
Yeah, he was lit.
He came off camera. He didn't bother to show up with the rest of the guys. My man
didn't he just kill 19?
He killed 19.
Yeah, he was happy about that.
The man was on. He was on 10. There's no way you could stop him. He was calling her an overrated, like a refrigerator.
He was trashing her. He was trashing her,
and she beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And you know that's an important part of her legacy. But she gets chosen in this tournament. How do you feel about Android 18, just in general?
I love it, dude. I love 18. I love the 18 and 17 characters combined. I love how they're basically one and the same, one female, one male, brother, sister, blah blah. Mm-hmm. I like the fact that they actually went through and they showed her as a mother before really even getting into all this. But the fact that they still let you know, like, these are still androids.
Right.
And they're still very powerful.
Right.
And as far as the tournament is concerned, I think it works perfect because then we got to see what everybody wants to see, which is some Android 18 and Krillin interaction.
Right. And that's the next guy on our list is we have Krillin, who's also selected from the tournament, Goku's best friend, a really capable fighter when you compare him to sort of everyone on Earth. But even though he's sort of fallen behind the pack just naturally because, you know, if you aren't a Saiyan, you aren't an alien. He's just literally an Earthling, a very strong guy who represents Earth. And he's been dependable, but also not very dependable. Where
Goku!
Right. Senzu Bean. But he's been dependable, but not dependable in the fact that he's a capable fighter. He can defend Earth when he wants to, but he's also been very afraid. He's also had to conquer this fear of these just strong fighters. And who could blame him? I mean, the guy has been, if you talk about everybody who's been killed in a saga.
He's seen a lot.
He's been killed in Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball GT,
he's seen a lot. like, come on, man! I'd be scared as fuck too in his position.
He's like, I can't even be. I don't know how many times you guys have wished me back, but I know it's against the law to be wished back this many times.
Yeah, absolutely, gotta be.
but through this entire thing, he has to sort of find his confidence within himself again. And we get a good little montage because he goes up against Goku. I think, or is it Gohan or Goku? I believe he goes up
It was
against.
Goku.
He went up against Goku and had this
But
fight against
didn't
him.
they let 18? It was after a while 18 joined, correct?
Right. So yeah, he went up against Goku. He was having this battle. He was like, "Give me your full strength." Goku goes Super Saiyan Blue. He's trying to fend off this Kamehameha, and 18 jumps in, and that's the moment where Goku realizes, like, "Yo, this isn't just a battle, just solo battle. This isn't a battle where it's just going to be me who wins. It's just going to be strongest who wins. I'm just going to turn Super Saiyan Blue, turn it on, and these guys are here to assist me. This is really a battle where we all have to work together for the same role." And Android 18 and Krillin have proved to be a good team. I don't know how they are in Dragon Ball Fighter Z together, but I mean, maybe you can speak on that. But
I mean,
have you
18,
ever used them?
18, yeah, I've ran 18, but 18 and 17 really go together. I mean, there's like a Krillin thing, but it's not really.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
I'm not running them. I'm not running them. But 18 is a really good character on that game. Yeah.
The next one chosen is Vegeta, and Vegeta has a little issue initially with joining this tournament because he's about to have a daughter,
which is great, right?
I thought it was amazing.
He really said no.
He really said he said like, no, I'm not going to join this tournament. How can I leave my wife at this time? Like, she would kill me if I left my wife at this time when we were about to have another child. And it was just another dimension of Vegeta. He's become so accustomed to this Earth thing. He's have compassion. He's all these things. He loves his children. He loves Bulma.
Great episode, by the way. Especially how they solve it.
Right. So essentially, how they solve it is Whis comes, uses a special, like, I don't know, Virgin Mary, time travel, like, I'm pulling the baby out of you and there's no like placenta or anything.
Nothing. Baby's just wrapped up and in Bulma's hands, like, boom, there's your daughter. Now Vegeta can fight. And
Vegeta's been a capable fighter. I think it's really, Dragon Ball Super has done this thing where instead of saying like Goku's number 1 and Vegeta's number 2, they've really done a 1A, 1B sort of thing.
Yeah, and that needed to happen. I think that was a fan service. I think that's something that we always wanted. I mean, we're still asking to see Vegeta Super Saiyan 3 at some point. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's still things that we don't know. I'm glad what they did for him. What's going on currently, with the extra, basically Super Vegeta Blue, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's awesome. But for me, I'm really, really surprised that he hasn't led everyone to victory yet. I think we've talked about this prior, like, just like I have always wanted Vegeta to kind of be the one to really save the day, really be involved with something, which, that's why I also don't think Super is over yet, but we'll get into that.
He's been 1A, 1B. He's done well in his share of tournaments. He's done all these other things. So Vegeta is the next one picked. And after that, we have Gohan, who is far from the warrior he was at the Cell Saga. And everyone reminds him. Everyone says, not as strong as he used to be. He's not the fighter he used to be. He's gone soft. Just because the man, education, becomes a family man. He's invested his time. The Earth hasn't been in major peril, and if there's in major peril, there's Goku, there's Vegeta. I think there's there's a threshold before it gets to him, and I don't think he feels like it ever has to get to him, because there are definitely full-time warriors, and I don't feel like he needs, or he believes that he needs to be one at this point.
Well, it's crazy. Listen, he's kind of turned out exactly how Chi-Chi wanted him to. And, right? I mean, that's when it comes down to.
But he's someone who's got this development and through this entire saga, through this entire Super series as well. I mean, from the moment we first saw him, he was, he was there, but he almost got beaten to smithereens by Frieza, and not even Frieza in his final form. Like, this is the first form Frieza, who's, I mean, I guess stronger, but he's still like he's not able to defend Earth. He wasn't able to defend, Earth and save his wife and save his child. So I think that really affected him. And maybe that's the reason why he entered that, inter-universe tournament, Universe 9, to be able to freshen up and be able to say like, hey, I should be able, along with being a good father, I should be able to protect the universe.
Right. He's done it before. I think he had to think about that. It's
Right.
like, oh, this is just something that I need to do.
So he has an okay showing. He's not, he succumbs to the poison. He's almost beaten. I mean, I think they went to a tie actually, which was crazy.
Yeah.
Which is just a further development of Gohan. But Gohan goes through this, I guess, sort of. He trains with Piccolo once more, and we'll get to Piccolo in a few seconds. But he trains with Piccolo once more to sort of recapture that inner fighter within him. And Piccolo says, "I know there's a stronger fighter within you, and you need to bring him out." I don't know if he was just alluding to Mystic.
Yeah, see, I'm saying they kind of teased, possibly some crazy Gohan transformation. And again, we talked about this off the record, and it's just like we thought, damn, Gohan really might have something completely fresh, completely new.
I don't know if it's because I don't know if it's like, did Gohan not connect with people? I mean, I think everyone felt him through the Cell Saga, but I don't know if it's like, because they've never really given him, I feel like always after the Cell Saga, which was supposed to be his moment, and then it was supposed to be the moment, and then it was supposed to be actually over.
Yeah, his character development kind of took a dive
right
after Cell.
He's in there fighting this tournament. I mean, even in the Buu Saga, they say he goes soft, he gets his power up, and then he's immediately swallowed by Buu. So it's kind of like he doesn't really have that chance to shine, and then he's destroyed and all this other stuff. So he never really has that opportunity. And I think this Universe Saga is really the opportunity that it gives him. I mean, without spoiling too much, he does fairly well in the tournament. One of the final fighters in it, but it's still the retelling of Gohan. It's still the sort of reestablishing of Gohan, and that's sort of the story.
He's maxed out. He is who he is.
Right.
He just fights really hard.
The next one is Piccolo, he's still a stealthy fighter, but I think out of pretty much all the main character who's had a role consistently through, Z and beyond, he's the one with the least development. Like his role in the series has continued to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle, and which is crazy because I remember first watching, the King Piccolo saga and the World Tournament all after the fact, and I was like, man, this Piccolo guy is cool as shit.
Now I was gonna say, were you always a fan of Piccolo?
I thought so. You know what? What made me a fan was watching after Dragon Ball Z was when I started watching Dragon Ball. I had no idea it started until they actually started showing on Toonami. I appreciated his moments. He gave up. He was still the sort of like anti-hero, but he had a good showing against Frieza for like 3 seconds, like a hot 3 seconds. But I always wanted to see more. I think one of the most underrated fights in all of the series is the fight that he had between Android 17.
Yeah.
Like it's one of
that was a raw scene.
It's one of the best fights. It's something that like it's a thinking man's fight. And it's all about not just being ahead of your opponent, but being like 2 steps ahead. Right. So it's kind of like it was one of those fights. So I always feel like he's had these moments, but he's never held it consistently. And even towards the end of Z, like he never really fought in the Buu saga. He was kind of like a babysitter through the entire thing.
I was never huge on Piccolo. I mean, his character never interested me. I liked him as Gohan's mentor,
right?
Because of the jokes about Goku not being that great of a father, but like, but you're like, Piccolo was always there. So I like Piccolo and Gohan,
right?
But like as far as just Piccolo and like, just his character in general, I never really truly cared for it like that.
Interesting.
And I always wish he had a little bit more too.
I understand.
Like it was just for me, like you got to show me something. Like I need you to,
I feel like there needs
really
to
be out here versus somebody who's like You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
he just never does the big stuff against the big guys.
Right.
He always
He's
gets
always
nailed
right. He's always a
against the big guys.
casualty
Yeah, and I don't
in
like
it.
that. I don't
Yeah,
like
I
that.
don't
It's
like it
not
at
good for
all.
me. It makes me and not that they might have made a mistake doing that early on, like with Yamcha and shit like that. But like for me, after a while, it's like I'm gonna look at you how they got you painted out to be.
The next fighter is Tien, and
Love Tien and Super.
I love. You know what? I'm a fan of Tien, and I've also heard that the creator of Dragon Ball is also a fan of Tien,
Tien
and
deserves so much more, bro.
I think so too because in Dragon Ball he was the man. Like Dragon Ball, he was kind of when he was introduced, he was kind of this enigma, where it's just like he has all these powers, and we didn't see at that point the depth of powers that someone could have. I mean, we saw Chaozu and Tien, and
Right.
Chaozu had psychic powers, and Tien could split in four, and it was all these different techniques that we hadn't seen before. Um, he was killed off in Z early. I think earlier than it needed to, but he still had a moment. He still had a moment where he got a good shot on Nappa.
Yeah.
Um,
But wait. Tien versus Cell.
Tien versus Cell. That was
when the tri beams into the ground over and over again after who failed? Was it Trunks? I think Trunks failed.
I mean, I think it was Piccolo. Piccolo.
Oh, yeah, that was right after Piccolo. That's
It was
right.
Piccolo.
That's right.
Piccolo got
Trunks and Vegeta were on the way.
He got his shit blown off. Like he was just like boom.
This man Tien put the world on his back and
Mm-hmm.
started shooting tri beam after tri beam after tri beam at this guy.
And he managed to hold down Cell, but at the cost of almost killing himself. And it was a noble thing from Tien. It was a noble thing, and it was a moment. It was a small moment.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
But it was
that's
an
why I was
awesome moment.
I always wanted to see him like really get down and like have a moment, a big moment, something like that for me. Like that's like again, that's something I remember. Like that's.
But in Super now, he was there during the Frieza thing initially, just to protect Earth, and he was like, "Yo, Frieza's coming." I feel like he's always there when Frieza's coming. He's just like, "Yo, I sense Frieza." That's crazy. I never met him before, but here we are.
Here. Yeah, he's here. I'm here too.
I'm ready to throw hands with him. But he has a dojo now. He has a dojo full of fighters that he trains, and I guess he wants to. He's extending his craft to fighters that could also come up. He was also under, I think, the Crane. Was it the Crane? The Crane dojo. It was a Crane Hermit or a Crane.
Look, man. All I know is he had everybody looking like him.
Right.
And that shit was tight to me. That shit was tight to me because I was like, oh man, this man literally like he's a master.
Right.
Like he's out there.
He's 100%. He's one of the strongest earthlings that there is. But again, that's someone who has a lot of moments. He's sort of been put on the back burner as like, I don't even know if it was second tier, but maybe like even a third or something along those lines.
Yeah, he fell down there. He was definitely, you don't even, it was to the point where you talked about him on the same lines as Yamcha. Not
right.
to be disrespectful, but like that's just kind of where they left.
Yeah, and Yamcha, they were always together, and now we might get to Yamcha. Who knows?
Maybe. Shouts Chaozu too. I don't know where he is, but
he's just around, salute. Man.
Salute, man.
He's just like, yo, can you watch Chaozu for a second? And I'm just like, bro, what is this?
Why is he not with you?
Why is he here?
It's ridiculous.
Master Roshi, and this is possibly, I don't know, this was the most interesting choice.
It's probably the best, like because we needed it from a fan standpoint.
Yeah.
That's what I told you. I think Super is a lot of that. Like I think Super has a lot of fan
it's
service.
Like fan service, right?
Yeah, it's like we need to get it right for the people. Let's just do this, and like just giving us Roshi and giving him some more character development, and like there's some cringeworthy episodes with him,
right,
in Super. But besides that stuff, like just his development going into the tournament, and just getting to see him still teach Goku and Krillin is amazing.
And this is the respect that they have for him. I mean, they go through the moments, and you see these moments where he's like, it's very like cringe moments, but it's just like the respect they have for him still. And Master Roshi enters the tournament. I think he's the most interesting because we literally have not seen him fight since Dragon Ball.
We don't know what he's got.
He's not been a critical when they introduced power levels. I think he sort of fell off the grid because he was not, on the same length as like the Saiyans or anything like that. Like it really just sort of blown him out the water. But I think over as the series grew, they started to, or at least, in Super, they've kind of done away with the power level thing.
Yeah, it's
which I'm a fan of.
I'm cool with
because it should be like power levels are one thing, but definitely techniques should add a different thing to it and what you bring to the table. Everybody's not the same fighter.
It's techniques and moves and move descriptions
and skill and just experience.
All that.
Shout
out Master Roshi. Evil Containment Wave.
The GOAT.
Man,
it's literally thrilling every time you see it.
It's awesome. Man.
Like my heart races because there's kind of like a build up to that move.
It's so cool. It's such a cool move.
Like, and it catches everyone off guard, and there's a build up, and there's a thing, and there's this like intensity when people are being like trapped into it.
Yeah,
cool. We've seen him miss, we've seen him hit, so it's like, will he do it? Will he not? But Master Roshi enters the tournament, and he decides like, I have to conquer my one biggest weakness, which is women. and
a cringeworthy,
cringy, like he gets Puar. To transform into a woman, which shout out to Puar. I mean, we haven't seen him in like forever. Like, talk about characters who don't mean anything anymore.
Yeah, seriously.
He's right there, but he transformed into a woman, and he just he spends his time not necessarily training his techniques, but training his mind, training his discipline, and sort of like, this is bigger than me fucking up because there's a cute alien girl and I want to get with her.
Right.
Like, this is for the universe survival, so I know I have to take this seriously.
Yeah, man, that episode was some real anime stuff right there,
And the next one who we're going to get to, I think, is both of our favorites at this point because we've had so many different.
Who are we talking about, man?
We're talking about Android 17, baby.
Man, listen, 17 is so OP. And I don't really think people understand it. Like, I don't think they understand. Like, first of all, his character is so lovable, dude. Like,
it's amazing.
Just like his personality is like, honestly, like, it's cool that I'm strong and all that, but I just want to do this.
Right. And you know what's crazy? I think his role in this is beyond. It's just beyond strength. Like, he's really the brains of this entire operation.
Yeah.
And he adds so much to the tournament. And I think one of the reasons why it was so good to have him in this tournament, and, spoiler alert, why he makes it so far along in it is because, his occupation now, I mean, he's protecting just these animals, and he's protecting this island from poachers, and he's like, I forgot what's his actual occupation. I forgot the actual name of it. But
it's like a ranger.
Something along those lines. And I'm just like, bruh. But here's the thing. In those woods, he knows how to survive. And I think that's really his key trait in all this, because through his entire fights, through his entire things, he's not clinging on to, like, it's not like he's out there and he's clinging on to life at every point and he's just like, he's almost out. He's finding ways to get around things. He's finding ways to survive. And it's always like, there's something human about it, because you don't know. I've always said this, you don't know the full extent of what a human can go through until you actually try it. Right. And you don't know that. And I feel like he's someone who realizes, like, yo, this isn't over. Even if the odds look completely shaky, there has to be a way to get this done. And that's what he brings to it. I mean, Android 17, we see him. It's the first time in a long time that we've seen him. We find out.
They love him because they put him in GT. He was in Z, and they brought him back in Super. And his GT role was underrated.
It's the best to me. Yeah, the most enjoyable for me, because it's literally the only thing I will watch. Kind of, I'll watch the end of GT, but I won't really watch anything else. I'll immediately skip to the Super 17 saga.
Yeah, it had its moments. We've had this discussion. You told me the same thing. It's just for me with 17, again, the character development in him. We've talk. Should I tell them my theory, his family, him having a family?
Go ahead.
So, there's this episode where him and Goku are kind of just having a conversation about like regular stuff, regular life stuff, and 17 is talking to Goku about his family. And he shows him pictures of his son. Did he have two sons?
I
Two sons
don't
and a wife?
remember. He definitely has a wife. He definitely has children. I'm not completely
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So he shows Goku a picture, and they don't talk nothing less about it. I have this theory that one of his kids is Oob.
Ooh.
And we talked about this.
Ooh.
And I have this theory that one of his kids is Oob because they talked about Oob a few episodes prior. I
Right.
don't know if you remember. It was on
No,
top
they
of the
definitely did.
lookout, I believe.
I mean, it was on the lookout that apparently can fucking move.
Yeah, right. That which is dope. That's new. That's dope.
That's then they doing his thing. Like he's out
Right,
here.
shouts did they.
He's not
And
doing it. He's not
so
sitting around and shit. He's like putting
right.
hydraulics on this bitch and we
He
move.
really got it souped up. So they're having a conversation about Oob, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go to this part where 17 is talking, and they talk about how strong he's going to end up being.
Right.
Talking about Oob, and then we don't hear nothing else about it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, this is Super, so they have nothing else about it. And then they do go to this Android 17 stuff, and he talks about his wife and he has kids. He shows Goku a picture. They don't let us see the picture,
Right.
But I don't know. I just had this theory that 17 is Oob's father at this moment, stepfather, whatever you want to call it. And 17 is extremely strong. Like he fought Goku in Blue, and it was like
it was a battle, man.
It was like he handled it. He handled it, man. And 17 is definitely he's my favorite character in that tournament.
Man, it's Android 17. Like if you watch this entire series, and at this point you probably have, you've learned to love Android 17. Like Android 17 is the man in this tournament. There's no way about it. He's MVP.
He's just too cool, man. He's just too cool. He's probably top 3 strongest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd like to put Frieza in that mark, but shit, man, I don't know, man. 17 to me, he looks like he's right there, right underneath Goku Blue and Vegeta Blue. Like, just from the standpoint of the things that he's done, the way that they kind of like show it off, I know they've tried to step away from this power level thing, but it looks clear to me.
The final person that we have, and I put this as final because there's a little bit of the asterisk by it. Goku, and he does this. Actually, people before he picks Boo for this tournament, and Boo is a solid choice. I mean, Boo had a great showing in that Universe 9 battle. He pretty handedly beat his opponent, and he's someone whose techniques is like someone he can get hurt, but he usually recovers. Yeah. So it's kind of something that you want for sort of a long-lasting person in this tournament because he's someone who can sustain damage and immediately recover, and so that will help out with his longevity in this tournament. And honestly, it's a great choice. I mean, the man is training. He shows up. He has abs now.
Oh yeah, he came back looking like Super Boo from Dragon Ball Z.
The man smoothed out. He's been on a gluten-free diet, all greens, all this other shit. And then just right before the tournament's supposed to happen, right as they're sitting outside on the patio, something's wrong with Boo. He's asleep. He will not wake up for the next 2 months.
Hercule says.
Hercule calls him and says this, and I'm just like, okay. I'm fine with that. Yamcha's in the corner. I'm like, oh, they gotta pick me now, bro. They gotta pick me.
Man, this man Yamcha thought he was really getting in on this tournament.
My man thought he was a factor, and this is the fan surface you're talking about again because they all know how we feel about Yamcha, and they're playing into it. They played through it through the Resurrection F. Yeah, they played into it through this entire saga. He thought he was going to get picked. He wasn't picked, but they did it in a tongue-in-cheek way, not to hurt anybody's feelings.
Yeah, of course. Nobody's mad that Yamcha's not in the tournament. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Like, literally no one. I don't, they're the most unaffected to the fact they don't even bring him up in the sort of discussion. Like, okay, who could replace Boo with? But in that discussion, Goku says, what about Frieza? And everyone is just like, what the fuck are you thinking?
Like, why would we want to see? This is what I'm saying. Okay. Let me ask you, what What villain would you bring back in this situation? Who do you think would go well? I told you earlier, I think Perfect Cell would have been an awesome replacement for Frieza instead, if that's, the direction they decided to go.
You know,
But I do love the fact that they had Frieza.
because there's development with Frieza.
Yeah, yeah,
So he had this
absolutely.
new form that we haven't really got to see and really got to test out or anything. Like he had it and he barely attained it, but he wasn't able to sustain it. So it's kind of like this sort of flash of like, ooh, that's something pretty.
Right.
That's something cool. So I mean, I probably, if there was a villain, I probably would have gone with Frieza, just because it doesn't. I mean, let's talk about it because this was definitely a question on that I had in terms of just like who else could have been picked.
Yeah.
And we had there. I mean, Yamcha was an option, but we're not picking Yamcha. There was Cell. Cell is
There
an
was Cell.
option.
Yeah.
Cell is a very strong, very cunning.
Yeah.
He has the DNA of Saiyans.
He would have.
DNA
He would
of
have. He would have went
Piccolo.
along with it.
We have shit. We have. I mean, there's an option for maybe even replacing one of the other people, but Goten and Trunks. But they're kind of not.
You'd have to give them. You have to do both unless they came fused. And,
right.
Yeah.
So they're not. Which is something in Super that I think that I'd like for them to explore more because they haven't really gotten development as fighters.
I just think they gave us so much of future Trunks that they had to kind of fall back on, current Trunks.
But I'm wondering because I guess I don't know. I think I'm wondering if their role is strictly comic relief, which it looks like it is.
I think in the future, here's my prediction. In the future, they'll have some type of relationship with 17.
Okay.
When all this fun stuff is said and done, which actually, without spoiling anything, we can't really speak too much on it. But when it's all said and done, I think, especially, I look at the little stuff and like the things that they kind of do to put things in place, like having Trunks and Goten kind of looking over and 17 trusting. Because remember, he talked about he would never leave this place to nobody else.
Right.
And 100%. But he trusted Goku and saying, I have someone who can watch this for you. And they let two Saiyan strong kids watch over it. Says that 17 not just doesn't trust Goku, but he trusts Goten and Trunks as well in this situation. So
right. But then in the end we get Frieza. Goku goes to I guess he goes to hell. I mean,
he goes to Frieza's hell.
There was a dub name for it. Home for Infinite Losers, which I remember. Which is it's a little quirky way to sort of censor out hell for us American kids.
Right.
But he goes there and he visits Frieza, and it's this kind of cool scene, and you can feel the chemistry, you can feel like the electricity, and then there's this. They've been through so many battles, you can tell there's sort of a mutual respect for one another.
Absolutely.
But they also know that they fully can't trust one another, but they also really enjoy fucking with each other.
Yeah, they both got jokes, they both got history, and they both respect each other, and they both hate each other.
So eventually, when Frieza gets brought back, the first moment that Frieza brought back, he punches Goku in the stomach. Boom. And it's just like this mutual, it's like a handshake between them two because Goku returns it right back. And it's just this moment. And we have this cool little, couple of episodes, maybe one or two where, there's I forgot which universe is it actually. I can probably look it up right now. It's something universe. It is universe 4. Between universe 4 and universe 9, where they're both like, oh, we got a plot to get these niggas out of here. Like, we are not trying to be eliminated. We are not trying to be like a universe that gets knocked off. We're trying to continue to be in this tournament. So they hire a lot of fighters to go there and sort of assassinate Goku and assassinate Frieza, and they fail because Frieza's having the time of his life shooting beams through niggas' chest.
Frieza has been in his hell for a long time, looking at a bunch of beautiful plants and all these great things that Frieza just happens to hate. It's his hell, and he gets a chance to basically murder at will.
But but also in talking about Frieza, I don't want to skip over the stipulation too much. So Goku makes this agreement with
Right.
Frieza that you'll be in the tournament, but he has to wish him back with the Dragon Balls. Um,
So
Frieza's
they can fight
free.
again.
Right, Frieza's free, and the winner of the tournament gets the Super Dragon Balls. Frieza's free. If he possibly wins the tournament, he can win the Super Dragon Balls, wish himself back. But Frieza was like, no, I want to be wished back if we as a team win this tournament. And Goku says, yeah.
I
And
mean, Goku has made a lot of promises.
right, he hasn't disclosed this to any of the group yet. Even through the entire series, he hasn't disclosed this to the group yet, which will be interesting to see.
You
You know,
already know, man. I'm
right.
telling you that there's so many things that they have not touched on yet, and we're
Mm-hmm.
at the end. Per se, that was what they're saying. So, I mean, Frieza is still the same dirtbag that he always was, and you find out pretty fast.
Right. So we have our 10 fighters. It's Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Piccolo, Tien, Master Roshi, Android 17, Android 18, and Frieza, and and they are a tournament. They're representing Universe 7. Like,
Us
right, they're representing us officially. I mean,
representing us,
we have them. They're our future is
like,
in their
man.
hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have Beerus as the coach, I guess. Um, Supreme Kai is
Shout Supreme Kai, man. I like Supreme Kai being around.
I like him being around, but also like his initial introduction was this like cool enigma character, and then he's also kind of like, oh, why are we doing this now? He's kind of like
He's
very
very like, I don't want to even really fight nobody.
and then there's also other Supreme Kais which are hilarious. Like there's literally like a couple like Universal 11 Supreme Kai is obviously like the thought Supreme Kai, but like
Yeah,
it's just like
facts.
he doesn't respect him. Like his hair is slicked back. He got way more cooler fits. Like all this other shit. Um, but we have them for the universe, and they travel there, and we're about to begin this tournament. But that ends this episode of the Lookout. The first episode where we're going over Universe 7, and in the next episode we will be going over the rest of the universes
Yeah, one of
and
my favorites.
and
Universe
just
6.
in just an entire scope of what we've learned, what we know, what we've heard, and all of this. Continue to subscribe to RNC Radio. Subscribe to the various podcasts. Subscribe to the various playlists that we have. You can catch Jeff on RSPN.
Yeah,
Um,
every Friday.
on Friday with Mark, my man MC. And yeah, we're just doing this entire thing. Thanks for tuning into this episode. This is the first of hopefully many if the reception's
more good
right.
times. More good
Um,
times.
But yeah, get ready for episode 2, and we're going to discuss the rest of the universes. But until then, we will see you next time.